Welcome back. It's time to bring in our panel. Jennifer Wagner, Tony Samuel, Robin Winston, Mike Murphy with us today. Let's start with Jennifer Wagner, the former communications director for the Indiana Democrats. Jennifer, what's your reaction to what we saw this past week at the RNC?
Well, it was bizarre, to be honest with you. I think Vice President Pence did what he normally does. I think we've all heard that speech before in all of his decades in public service. And he, managed to differentiate himself from the president while still praising the president, which is a tough act. But I think, how could you not watch President Trump and just be truly captivated by the bizarreness of his speech, in that he pretends like he's not the president and is talking about a post-apocalyptic Biden presidency that doesn't exist, at the same time as there are riots in the streets and 180,000 people dead of coronavirus. I think there's a very clear choice coming out of these two conventions. You've got the unhinged narcissist and you've got the empathetic tested leader. And it doesn't take a whole lot of genius to figure out which one voters are probably going to pick.
Let's turn to Tony Samuel, who I'm guessing has a different take here, the 2016 vice chair for the Indiana Trump campaign. Tony, does this past week move the needle at all for the Trump campaign in the polls?
Yes, definitely. The whole week was great, and one that was a success all the way around. It moves the needle that was already moving during the Democrat convention. You remember President Trump was out there getting his message out, and the Democrat convention was more like a terrible game show. This was all class, told a great American story all week long. You had people that were real Americans, a logger from Minnesota, a dairy farmer from Wisconsin, friends of President Trump, telling the successes of his administration, along with Vice President Pence doing a great job of showing the contrast, the differences between what the president has accomplished and the terrible policy that Joe Biden is trying to put forth. It's radical, and we saw the difference here.
All right, let's turn to Robin Winston now. Robin, no doubt this convention, as we said, happening in the midst of a very consequential week with a lot of very other important headlines in the news as well.
It was a bizarre week. It continued the reality show that Americans have seen now for over 3.5 years. What Tony didn't mention is it included a week where one of the most staunch religious supporters of Donald Trump had to step down because of scandal. It included a week where his former campaign manager, yet another one, had to be charged by the feds with bilking people out of money. So, here's what I ended up with. Over 100 Bush administration people endorsed Joe Biden. Over 200 McCain and Romney people endorsed Joe Biden. So when you talk about proven and tested, as Jennifer said, proven and tested resonates with Joe Biden. I don't know what channel we were on with Donald Trump.
Mike, what do you make of the vice president's speech, his remarks, and also how that speech might set him up perhaps for 2024?
Well, I'll agree with everybody here. I think there's truth on both sides, and I think that it has been a pretty bizarre week for all the reasons stated. One thing I'll add is that my brother was on the South Lawn last night. He wore a mask, by the way, and afterwards was chased down 15th Street by a mob of 50 to 60 people until he was able to reach safety with police department. So crazy, crazy night last night. I'm glad he's safe. Pence gave the speech of his life, actually. I thought he did a great job. Very historic setting. He's perfect in that setting. It sets him up well for 2024, no matter what happens in 2020. I could see a Pence Tim Scott ticket or a Pence Nikki Haley ticket. Either one would be great for me, and I think great for Hoosiers and for America.
Well, and who knows? It seems like there were perhaps a lot of potential 2024 candidates that took the stage this past week, not just Pence in the running for sure. Another big name from Indiana made news this past week at the convention. That's former Notre Dame coach Lou Holtz, who called Joe Biden a, quote, Catholic in name only for his views on abortion. A lot of controversy over this. Notre Dame's president even responded saying the university doesn't endorse Holtz's views and said, quote, we must never question the sincerity of another's faith. Jennifer, what did you make of that controversy?
Just, stepping in it royally. And I say that as an Episcopalian, so we actually are Catholic light. But I also say that with my Play Like a Champion sign in the background here. My my better half is a Notre Dame fan, and just it's not a good look for the university. And there's really no reason to say stuff like that. It's a personal attack, and it's not necessary.
Mike, I know you're a Notre Dame guy and also a Catholic. Your thoughts on this attack on Joe Biden?
Yeah, I grew up 6 blocks away from Notre Dame. My dad ran the PR operation there for 40 years, so I think my blood is on the bricks, so to speak. I think, first of all, you have to understand that Holtz was speaking as a roughly 80-year-old former football coach with no current connection to the Notre Dame officialdom, except for our love for Lou as a coach. And you correctly pointed out that that Father Jenkins, the president, said he does not speak for Notre Dame. You correctly quoted the part about the faith, but also Father Jenkins says it is perfectly okay to objectively question the moral value of people's actions, which I think Holtz was doing in his own way. Now, people have leveled those same charges against Joe Kernan, state legislators, Catholic legislators who happen to be Catholic and then vote pro-choice in their careers. And I think, it's tough to judge any individual. There's only one person that can do that.
Robin, a lot to come here over the next 60 plus days as we talk about the election itself, how we're going to vote. The Secretary of State here in Indiana this past week saying they won't be expanding mail-in voting.
Just south of us, my friend Andy Beshear worked with the Secretary of State in Kentucky, and they worked together to make a bipartisan effort to make things a lot easier for people in Kentucky to vote. If Kentucky can get voting right, surely Indiana can. We had 500,000 people vote early. We've got people wearing masks at the grocery store. We got the Election Commission meeting by Zoom. We should not have people have to go out and stand in a line with a mask on to vote. However, one announcement today, I believe, is that the NBA is announcing that all their arenas are going to become polling places. So maybe people can show up and vote at Bankers Life.
Tony, 30 seconds. What are you looking for here over the next couple of months as we look at these polls? Joe Biden ahead, but as you suggest, perhaps the president making it closer here in recent days.
The president's numbers are moving. They were before the convention, like I said, they have throughout. He'll get a bump. His speech was great. It was presidential. Folks like Alice Marie Johnson talking about the pardon. You had so much diversity at this convention. The president's going to do well with Black, Hispanic, minority voters. He's going to do well in those blue-collar states. Okay. He's going to win this election. He's going to win Indiana big. He got to tell the story, the American story of all the successes that have been drowned out by the Russia hoax and the impeachment. Okay. And so it's a great thing that he got to tell in a very classy, very high production, very high valued convention.
All right.
I'll go forward over the next few months.
All right.